Hello. We're back. It's Friday. You can't do Fridays on Salesforce. You can't do weekends on sale. You can't, I don't know. Here we go. Let's do a show. Hopefully that background music is not awful. Let's check it out. What are we going to do today? Let's build something together. Let's build Batchflow Part 4. Let's check the stream and see if this audio is cool. Hold tight. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Infinite loop of checking. Okay. Batchflow Part 4. I can't think of a good Part 4 in any movie series, but here we are, because our series is going to be better than any movie series, because I said so. Where have we been? Well, here's where we are. Last week, we figured out how to make batch flows configurable in Salesforce. Custom objects. Tells us how we lets us kind of codify what we've been doing up to this point. Let's take a look at that. Take a look at how it's configured. We really need to write some unit tests here. Just saying, it's a little overdue. Not a ton of code, thankfully, but we gotta cover the code we wrote. So let's work on that. And then I still think there's some kind of like dashboard that we should build to show our batch flows at work somehow. Maybe those are flows themselves. Meta. Let's get in the org. This is quite the lively soundtrack. Fist bump. There we go. All right, what do we got going on here? I think I just have one of these. So we got a batch flow in here called account stuff. Here's all the configuration. This should look familiar. These fields map to this stuff. And what else we got here? The flows, the batch flow flows that actually run when, or the batch flows that are actually going to run. The flows that are actually going to run when our batch flow runs. So we sequence those, give them a name, give it the processing mode. Then we got logs. Not much of a log yet, really more just a status checker. Something funky's happening because we get 2 logs every time a batch flow runs, and I'm not sure why. So maybe we should try to figure that out today. Interestingly, the second one status goes to complete. The first one just stays as queued. So something's up there. I'm going to delete these before I get confused. There we go. So we got to figure that out. We got to have some logging in those two. Want to I'm gonna figure that part out too. But you know, this works. We can run this. How do we run this? I forget. Did we? We didn't create a button yet. I think we want a button that says, you know, run this batch flow. I think, boy, how did we run these last week? Oh. It's in here, I think. Oh, it's an invocable. That's right. That's our invocable. What that's doing. So we've got a run batch flow invocable here, and then we can also run it this way too. So we exposed a run method within batch flow to do the work. So it goes in and queries the batch flow and the related child records, sets it all up, runs it. So that's, I think, how we were doing it last week. And I was hoping that we could get to a point of getting a button going on these. So I think we've got some flow for that already. Let's see here. Run batch flow. So we'd like to be able to pick the batch flow we want to run. I don't think we're doing that yet. Batch flow choices. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have this part. Yeah, we've got this part down. So I think if I run this, it should just have that one option show up. Count stuff. And then does this actually kick it off? I forget. We send it our batch flow ID. I think we have that set up to pass in the ID. And then it fires off. So let's do this. Let's get a dev console up so we can see the logs of what are happening. Because something fishy is going on. You don't have to load. There's nothing to load. Let's say something about debug logs. Nope. All right, let's get this fired up. And then let's run this. I don't want your experimental features right now, Google. Thank you. Okay, so it should have queued it up, and it did. Let's go see the record. Let's go look at account stuff. Again, 2 logs. Why do we get 2 logs? The first log has the batch job ID and the status of queued. The second log has no batch job ID, but it seems like it's where it's processing. So I think it's somewhere in our code in the way that we're creating the log records that we're just creating a duplicate. Let's see, is it in the start? Let's open this up. I'm going to open it up raw so we can search. That would be log is probably not the best word to search for. No, batch flow log. Okay, so we insert a batch flow log once in here. That makes sense. Line 133. Let's see, where do we call save log? call it when we init. Where was that? Let's see. We back up to where that got called. Is a init in here? So we're knitting here. And we call that in our invocable, right? Yep. Okay, so I think let's go back a step. Let's go back to where the invocable is called. So it gets called in the okay, so it gets called when the invocable is called. With my crazy hair. It gets called when the invocable first calls. So doot 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 doot, and then init, which then takes us down to here. Fire up the batch. We've queued. Save the log. And if we do go to save logs definition, logging's enabled. We set these values because we can. If log ID is null, insert log, else update log. So then it feels like we lose context of the log the second time around. It is stateful. So we're setting our source, I think. Our source from here is Batchflow invocable. So let's see what those look like. Source is Batchflow. Whoops. Source on 7 is Batchflow invocable. Source on 6 is Batchflow invocable. Something is telling it to create that twice. Is it creating 2 when we... DML rows in the init is just 1. DML rows here, 0. Huh. DML rows 1. This is when we, coming from the invocable, it's just 1. Oh wait, that's, no. I'm going to reopen these so I don't get confused. All right, so DML rows 1 here, and then DML rows 0. So how are we getting a second one? Let's do this. I'm going to not save here. I'm just curious if that has any effect. Are we going to get this error when saving thing again? I sure hope so. Oh, good gracious. How about we just quit Visual Studio for a second and see if this... Bring it back to life and see if it gets happy again. Clean up my mess here. Little sluggish. Probably has to activate all the extensions again. And I have way too many Visual Studio Code windows open. I'll give it a minute to breathe. No, I don't want to install those. All right, let's try to save this again. Hopefully we've ridded ourselves of the... Maybe. Oh, I don't get it. Maybe I just need to update my CLI. If I can remember how I installed it in the first place. Can we update right from here, or do I have to? Yeah. I think I did it with NPM. So we'll see if updating the CLI gets rid of our fun little problem here. Whew, that's taking a minute. Here we go. Let's see, do we get a new version? .33, I think that's the latest. All right, let's try to save again, just for fun, see what happens. I hope this shook out whatever was going on here. Yeah. So it can't call project deploy start, but if I go ahead and just right click and hit deploy, what is it calling? So deploy source to org and push source to default org apparently don't do the same things. So I almost want to just disable the, until I figure this out, disable the setting that I just don't want to have it send on save. I can't remember where that is. Yeah, turn this off. Does it think that it's not a source tracked org? It's a scratch org. The solution might be to just push to source control. Oh, prefer deploy on save specifies whether to always run deploy instead of push. Yes. Yes, let's try that. I have no idea why. See what happens now. Okay. Maybe that's what I always had it set at and didn't actually realize it. I don't know. Anywho, let's run this again and see if we end up with 2 logs. Uh-oh. Field is not writable. Let's see where that error. Maybe this, okay, maybe this is telling us something. Line 93. Batchflow is not writable? Yeah, but this was working. Permissions? Curious. How have we made it that far without that being set? Oh, okay, those are all in there. Well, let's try it again. I mean, that... I think we have this set to run as... No, I guess depends on how it's launched. So maybe it was... I don't know why it would care about this, not care about the permissions at one point and then care about them at another. But let's run it again. Nope. How is that field not writable? That's nothing. No, that's just letting. That's just telling us that the batch that flow is running. So, okay. This locates the batch flow we're going to run. So then it looks for a batch flow log where, okay, batch job ID is not null or scheduled ID is not null. That, I don't think we want that. Well, I guess that's okay, but we're looking for something where one of these isn't null and the batch job ID. Do we have that yet? Let's see. Is it because we don't have... No, because it should be aware. It should be aware of its batch job ID. By the time we call... We call init, we get the batch job ID. And we're not even calling save log here at this point. So that's kind of interesting. Just by the act of setting that value, it's throwing this error. Because it thinks that's not writable? It doesn't make sense. This started when I just did this. I don't understand. Maybe I wasn't testing this until another change was put in. The fact that something is coming back here is kind of weird. I'm going to delete these. Let's see if maybe is the issue with the fact that some data already exists. Because if it's a batch flow as a master detail, we can't reparent. So that's why it's not letting me change that, which is reasonable. But now how many of those do we have? Are we back to having 2? Yes. Why? Let's look at this query that we're using to get this back. I don't remember why I put this in. This does not make sense. Okay. Let's try it without that kind of weird query in there. I do think there's some naming convention changes that are worth considering. Like, Batchflow is the thing that we're doing here. I think these are really more like Batchflow configs or something like that. Batchflow configurations. Because it's a little confusing to have the name of the app and the name of the object. So maybe we'll rewire that. That doesn't fix any of this, but just thinking about the poetry of all this. All right, let's run it again and see what happens. Okay. Still says queued. It should be processing now. So something's missing there. We'll see if it completes. So I think we mark it as processing. Yeah, it should be happening here. Let's check one of these and see if, let's see, does it mark it as complete now? No, still thinks it's queued. So something's not here. Is anything getting called there? We see it updating. 133. That's our save call, right? Yep. why are we losing the status between here and there? Let's debug this. We kind of need this logging stuff working before we can make any kind of visualizations here. Okay, let's run it again and see. I'm also curious, will this run with one of these? Okay, wait, we got a second one again. Wait a minute. Okay, it wrote completed. When do we do that? In the finish, it wrote completed. All right. Delete them both. And rerun this. Okay. Take a look in our start call. So it should say preparing. That should even be getting set. And I think one thing I'm going to do is set the history tracking on this, or some healed history tracking. This one says processing, but doesn't have the batch job ID. I don't understand. I'm going to open one of these. Let's look at the debug on this. I'm going to turn off that debugging because, wow, I don't think we need all that. I feel like maybe it's just easier to ask for the for the log each time we save it, rather than try to drag it around as a variable, because I must be doing something wrong up here. Yeah. So I'm tempted to do something like this instead. We get rid of log. We go down to save log, wherever you are. I'll make another so this doesn't blow up everything. Private void log, right? And then find our log, which is this. Batch job ID and schedule job ID are unique. We're only going to ever have one. So, oh, hold on. What am I doing? Let's pass in the status. What else do we set? We set the source. So maybe we'll overload this. We'll do one with the status and one with the source. Can we do that? Because it's they're both strings. All right, so if it's empty, right, well, let's do this. I don't want to get into that. Okay, so we'll get those, but we'll get a list, but just one. We'll test if the list has something in it. If it does, we'll create our own new Batchflow log. What we could do is actually just add a string, like add a log status up here. So maybe this makes it a little bit easier to... All right, then we can pull all these. Then we don't have to really pass anything. We just log. Log.source. What else do we have? We'll set the... Oops. Schedule job ID. We can set these all the time. They're always going to be the same. But I think we have to say if log.id is null, then log.batchflow is it a master detail? Like we have to have a batch flow. I think I was pondering this last week. Do you have to have a batch flow config to run a batch flow? Oops. Which again is why I think we want it to be called batchflow config as opposed to batchflow. Work on that next. Right now you do. The answer is yes. And I can, I can rationalize that. Like you don't. Why would you log if you don't have one? So, so back down here in our log call, but we also can't update it because it's master detail. So the big question is, well, how do you get this, right? Which is why I think we need something like wow, I cannot spell. Right. I think I can save this without blowing up the universe, and then let's do some naming convention adjustments here. I lied. Let's just do this. We'll just say return null. Okay, so we're officially not logging at this point. Ah! Oh, wait. Doesn't have to return anything. No. Oh, it's looking for that variable. Yeah, I just want to do some refactoring around all this. arguably too, like the stuff that we've got here, there's now objects for them. So, you know, we have a data structure that represents a Salesforce object. We could technically just use the Salesforce object as the data structure. Aside from the enums that are in here, which are probably good to keep around. But I mean, that's a whole other question. Oh, come on. Oh, whoops. There we go. All right. Gonna do a little. We could basically take our Batchflow object and create a new one. I'm just going to go ahead and create it, and then I'll copy the fields over. It's going to do the exact same thing as Batchflow, but I want to do two things. I want to change the titling to this, and we'll call this Batchflow configuration. Oops. Configs. We're better with configs. A little shorter. Use the gear again. We'll need to do our permission set mojo here. So I think we will end up with a Batchflow app. You can see our configs in there. We can build a dashboard that has some stuff going on. So for right now, I'm not going to grant this to anything. Okay, Batchflow config. Gotcha. Let's pull. Does pull work with all this other stuff being wonky? That worked. Okay. All right, let's see if we can just shamelessly steal the layout of. Well, I got Batchflow config layout, so we can update that, I think. Let's take all the fields from Batchflow and let's copy that into. We'll copy the list views too, right? Does that work? Yeah. Copy those. Put those into config. Oh. That gives us all for free, so we can delete this. Can I push this? All right, cool. Got those. Now can we replicate? Where's my layout? I want to get all these fields out here. What's going to blow up if I just copy this completely? These are going to blow up. I feel like this is going to blow up too. How about I just grab the... let's just grab the fields for right now. Oh. We'll work on the related list because we don't actually have a related list yet. So that goes into config. Go like this. I think that'll work. Yep, okay. So we got our layouts. Let's do our permission set. I can copy this one. So this will be Batchflow config admin. I think we just have to replace, well, a few things in here. Can we Batchflow config admin, right? Then I think we can just globally replace these. Okay, so that should give us our admin config. Good, and then let's add that to the permission set group. All right, so we've got a new object that looks exactly like the old object. It makes my naming convention brain happy. And from here, we could actually we're going to run it. Batchflow config ID. Oop. So let's make this a Batchflow config. Oh, we need to do, let's see. This has a master detail to Batchflow. Can I change that to a lookup for a second? Okay, Batchflow. Let's create a new master detail now to It's not going to love this because we don't have a Batchflow config. Copy and paste all this. Account stuff, we're doing an update. Oops. Okay, so it should be happy now that we have a... can we... let's find out. I might have to delete those records. Yeah, records already exist, so we have to get rid of these. I think if hopefully it'll let me go back a step and clear these out. I'll have to do the same thing with these logs too. Okay. There we go. So now this can go away. Except it can't. Oh, because we're still looking at it in our code. That's right. Okay. Okay, so we'll make that a property now. And let's see here. So Batchflow now has, we can replace a lot of these with just what's in the config. We can have Batchflow load config. Right? Okay, so it's going to load that. Okay, so we're going to load that from there, and then I think this is going to be batch flow config flows now. All right, so we'll clean this up. I suppose we could actually make that a, just do an overload here. Okay. So if we're, since we're initializing so much of this in the constructor, a lot of this could move in there, right? So then we kind of have to decide, like, we could also just call this config, because I think we're gonna be referencing that a lot. Like, I'll let it slide. Let the naming convention slide a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna run with, we run with a batch ID and a source. So source does need to be its own. Well, it really doesn't. I mean, we could just say that. Oh wait, that's going to be for our log. So let's store that. My face has stopped moving. I really got to figure out why this thing keeps kind of locking up. I got to use this tomorrow for a longer period of time, and it's not going to be cool if it freezes. Maybe it doesn't freeze. Maybe it just freezes in OBS, but it keeps working fine. We'll see. Okay, so anyway, we need source. I think this is, let's call this log source. And we'll call this log status for now. Again, I think we can clean that up too. Enable logging. Well, we have that as a checkbox, so I think we can get that from let's see, where do we find this? I don't think we're going to need to do this because it's in our config. So then I would say if okay, so we can do that, and then we don't really need. You know, it should yell at us sufficiently while we figure all this out. Flow config, we do still, well, we have objects for that now too. All right, so we'll have to see where these are being applied, and then we'll make a call from there. Socalware, I've got a field for that. What did we call that? Filter. We won't need it here. Shouldn't need it there. And batch size, we have that. Okay. Whittling this down. Action, that's an enumeration, so we might keep that. S object type, we don't need that. We have that on our... Okay. We could set these ourselves. Well, no, these are for the log. So again, these could be... I'm going to pull config all the way up so we see that that's like a big deal. Oops. Flow config, yeah, it really is just that object now. Let's see. Let's see. Did flow config? Did we track next? We haven't done next on the object yet, which is fine. We'll come back to that. This goes on config. This is the log, so hopefully we can clean up the log issue as part of this too. Okay, there's that. I'm going to come back to flow configs. I feel like all of these belong on one or the other of these. Oops. Right, because we're going to log these. Oh, we don't want to change the... Yeah, we shouldn't change the name of the... I don't know if it'll care. I'm just being picky here. All right, so we're going to load the config. We can add flows, but we might not need all that. I'm gonna say I want to do getters and setters on these, because if they don't exist, then we should create new for each. So there's that. Okay, so that will create new for us if we don't have them. This loads config. We shouldn't need this stuff anymore. We're going to anticipate things exploding here shortly. We are converting still our batch flow flows into so I could pull this. I'll put it down in here for a minute. See if we need that though. Okay. Does this default? Does action default to none? Yes. All right, so we fixed the actions. Let's see, does this all still make sense? Processing. I think this all stays the same because that object hasn't changed. Its name is going to change, but for right now, we're good. And then we still have to deal with this. All right, this should blow up a whole bunch of stuff. Or none. Let's see, some references. All right, this is Batchflow config flows now. Okay. Source and status down here in the log call. I'm gonna disable this for a second. Actually, let's do this. Let's leave the log because I don't know where it's being called right now, but we'll clean that up. There. Let's see. Okay, this .config on 173. Oh, this dot this. Yeah, that's not going to work. And then it looks like we have a couple of signature issues with our adding of flows. So let's see. Execute batch. All right. Can we just cast that? Oh, it doesn't want a decimal. That's right. It wants an integer. Yep. This was a fun one from a few weeks ago. Okay. We got that all switched over, kind of. So we don't need where clause. So really up here now, what this turns into is config dot. Well, I lied. The action is still going to be. I've got to think about how that's going to. These all become config dot. Filter. We're going to store this as config.action, but we can't retain it as that. I want to have just like a little, conversion from the string to the enum, which I guess we could just we could have a get action. Or set action, I suppose. Okay, so now the hope is that our log let's see where these are being oops. Don't need those yet. Okay, so this dot log dot batch job ID. Just set that field. Where else? Save log or write log? Maybe it's write log. Again, we've got log here. Oops. Do this in a couple other spots. Maybe just this spot might be the last one. Oh wait, we need to return it. All right, so enable logging. See if we can bring this back online. So we don't need to write these anymore. That's going to have a different name. We need to update. Did we update the relationship on the Batchflow log yet? No. So let's change this to a lookup. I'm still on the fence about do you have to have a config in order to log? I feel like the answer could be no. Because like what if we have functionality that lets us just run these ad hoc, like go set one up, boom, and then done. You know, like what's that gonna... So I'm going to... Come on. I'm going to change it. Oh my goodness. Don't allow deletion of a lookup record that's part of a relationship. I guess that would... Well, now we're going to want to clear these out. Oh wait, if the lookup record is deleted... let's not allow deletion. My silly branding blunder here. I have a bunch of capital F's to make lowercase. Again, I don't think it's going to matter, but... Okay, so Batchflow, I don't think we really need here anymore. If we can get rid of it. Maybe? Here we go. Okay. So now I would just say if so if we actually have a config, we'll set it. And then can we just upsert this.log on its ID? Well, this all assumes that our log is going to be like stateful and persist. So I don't need to requery for it. How about let's overload this, because we're always changing the status. little cleaner. Okay. All right, so we swapped that over to using the Salesforce objects as the data structures, except for the flow configs, which still might do that. And what's next? Aside from some naming fixes, which we'll get at some point, I think the Batchflow object can now go away. And we'll just leave us with our Batchflow config. Because can we get to, let's see, can we get to Batchflow config? Yes, all right. So let's go ahead and delete that. And find out if it'll let us. Yep. Oh, it's in our flow. What flow is that in? Probably our batch flow choices. Gonna need to recreate this. So we'll say batch flow config choices. Just going to grab them all for now, sort them by their names. Let the name be the label, and then we'll capture the ID. So it should be all the stuff that we need. And on our screen, let's swap this over. That should work. Get rid of this. All right. Oh, no. Oh, it still has relationships on these, right? Okay, so let's get rid of... Should be no more references. I wonder, it might yell at me. I might have to get rid of the deleted flavor as well. Okay, and then is the same on the log? I think it's gone there. I think it's gone. Okay, try it again. If it's not gone, it'll tell me where it's not gone. Oh, it's probably gone, but not deleted. Yeah. Okay. Here we go, first try. Ready. Done. Okay. That object's gone. So now we're left with our flow, log, and config. I'm going to pull all that down so I don't lose track of things. Should get rid of that permission set too. Hopefully this works. There's a lot of changes there, so maybe it's taking a second to process. We're going to create an app for Batchflow next. We're going to retest the flow, hopefully get our logging squared away, and then we can get on the fun stuff. And by fun stuff, I mean the unit testing might wait till next week or happen off screen. This is taking a minute, isn't it? Well, while it's cooking, let's make a new Lightning app. We might want to make logs have a tab because it's possible that a log is not always associated with a config now. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so let's create a permission set for All right, so we'll isolate the access to the app itself. Oh, hey, for us, what is Batchflow? Batchflow is, it allows you to call flows, auto run flows from Batch Apex. So you could basically pass a bunch of records to Batch Apex and then have it execute against those records, at whatever scale. It's sort of, it would be like putting putting a flow on a record, record fired trigger, a record triggered flow, but it gives us a little bit more control, and it can handle sequencing, which I know flow can also do that, but I ran into this need because I had some like utility flows that I didn't always want to run in a trigger context. So I'd keep them off to the side, and when I needed to run them, I'd use this to process a whole bunch of records. I can also schedule flows this way, so you can make a scheduled batch and then run a bunch of flows at a time. So kind of it was kind of born out of some needs that I just couldn't cleanly separate from using standard flow. It's still standard flows. They're just called a little in a different way. One example was like we ran some data processing from one system to another on a nightly basis, and it would run over like 500,000 records or something like that. So we used Batchflow to process those conditionally, and not so because it doesn't always have to run when those records are updated. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. So you can also configure the flows, or configure the records that you want to run. Um, I think a lot of it too is also you might not have to write batch apex anymore, right? So you can encapsulate your batch apex by calling one or more flows and then do whatever data processing you need to do in there. Obviously, it doesn't work if you're doing more than data processing, but maybe we'll add something around that as well at some point. Okay, so we got access. This is still running, man, huh? Okay. I'm gonna cancel you. Let's try it again. Maybe I need to just retrieve instead of pull. Oh, nope. Seems like push and pull are like just not happy. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna give it another second, and if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna try to just retrieve. Let's see, was the error here? Entity, custom field, batchflow log, batchflow. Okay. So we can just get rid of the batchflow object completely here because it's already gone. Batchflow config is good. Batchflow flow I think is good. This can go away. And then let's get rid of this. Oh, we should delete this. I don't think it relates to anything now. So there's our test flows. Okay, I think we got everything now. I'm just going to pull one more time. Well, not pull, I'm going to retrieve. It's weird. It's like this scratch org just like has lost its mind. Object translation. That looks a little weird, doesn't it? Oh, because that's the only object in there now. It must not have created translations because, well, no, I created that object in. All right. Okay. I think we're back in business. I think. Let's find out. Let's run that flow again. I'm just going to refresh this so it doesn't. Let's call that init batch flow. Oh, we don't have our account stuff completely configured yet. Yep, let's edit this page too. Or let's edit the object. Eventually we'll get some lightning pages in here. Oh wait, I already have those. So maybe I do have a... Nope, they're there. Okay. All right, what are our flows? Let's do... Just do set name and set description. It would be nice to do this in nice to do this in a flow too, hopefully, so we can just make it more easy to configure. Okay, so we got some flows there now, so I should be able to go debug this now. Okay, fired it up. Oh no, we're still getting multiple logs. Oh no. Why are we getting multiple logs? I'm so confused. What is... Let's see. We're initializing our log record. I'm pretty sure I just saw a raccoon. That's exciting. Ooh, it's cold out. It's spring in Rochester, New York, which means we've got 3 days of snow. Love that. All right, why are we getting... I'm gonna log, or I'm gonna debug when we write log. Do we? Oh, do those have to be static? I think that's, yeah. That's why. Because they're not persisting, right? Yeah, but my. No, that doesn't make sense because the batch flow that persists across. Right? Yeah, this .flow config, so that shouldn't be it. Let's get rid of this. I don't want to keep writing that enormous list of stuff to the... Do we have any other debugging happening in here? I think we're also good with this. All right, that gets rid of some of our logging. Okay. Let's try it again. Invalid type. Okay. Oh, I forgot to actually write the log. Not exactly sure what our set description is upset about. Is this happening in the flow? Let's see. 173. Is it looking for a parameter? Let's just run it. Let's update this and we'll just run it with one flow config. Okay, batch flow log status preparing. That's what we would expect at the start. And then if I open the next one, so this is the first. So this is what happens in start. And then this is what happens in execute. Status processing, Batchflow config, yes, and ID, yes. So this does not have the so it's curious. They don't have the does either one have the this has batch job ID. This does not. Which is interesting because we're like not even querying for that anymore. So my face is frozen again. What is going on with this thing? Let's see here. Oops. Sorry, doing a little so that's going there. Okay. So where's this going? This is going on my mic. That's weird. Alright, hang on a second. We're gonna lose the mic for a second. Alright, we got our mic back. Cool. We got our screen back. Huh. Did I actually plug in the right thing? Hmm. Oh, maybe it thinks it's a different source now. Let's try that. Let's see. Okay. We're back. Let's see if this works any better. It's weird because that needs to flip, right? Yep. Okay. Well, let's see how that goes. All right. Where were we? We were scratching our heads wondering why we aren't getting... Is it in the finish? Let's see. What's our close batch apex look like? See, it has it. It has it there too. I'm instead of doing upsert, I'm gonna like literally check for. Let's see what we get out of this. Let's see. No ID equals insert. Okay, let's see what that does. Because it's there. That's what's weird. It's definitely there in the logs. No ID equals insert. Okay. Have ID equals update. Have ID equals update. Have ID equals update. So why are we getting... Oops. Why are we getting doubles of these? That's so weird. Gonna get rid of all these. There's nothing that would point to uh, um, I'm gonna let me update that flow or my config so that it only hits like, I just want it to hit like one account so I can run super fast because we got like 1,000 in here. So I'm just gonna take this, go back to our config, and we'll specifically look for this ID. There, let's rerun this. This should be super fast, and there shouldn't be a whole lot in the debug logs, so maybe we can pinpoint where this double creation is happening. Our next step doesn't do much good if we don't have if we have duplicate logs. Okay, that's the update. This, I think, is the creation. All right, I'm going to download this. There's one insert of Batchflow log there, so we're happy about that. There's no inserts here. No inserts here. I should actually, I'm going to download this again. I want to see that there's an update. Update Batchflow log. That's what we would expect. Okay, that's the starting one, so that's our insert. And then I think this is the... It happened so fast that the logs just got all written at the same time, basically. Because this is the finished state, I think. There is only one insert. And there's nothing else running. And yet we still get 2. I do not understand. I also don't understand why it keeps writing. It writes the job ID here and it marks it as queued. Is it because preparing, processing, aborted, completed? When's the other one written? There's only one place where these get created. Does it log in the invocable? Is that... So the source, it's blank here. What's the source up here? Also blank. Man, I am stumped. We're not setting... We're not... There's only one place where we're inserting records. I should be able to call an upsert here. But, you know, I broke this all down so we could see what the heck's going on. Why are we getting 2? Is there another flow that's doing something against batches? Or against logs? No, these are all just the. These are just the. Oh, that's why that one wasn't working, because we weren't sending the list in. This is the only one we're actually working on. Is there? Are we writing a log in there? I'm so confused. What is writing a second record? All right, I'm going to delete these log files so I don't get confused. What is going on? All right, let's try this. Can we pinpoint where? Okay, so we have another log in here that shows us when we initialize a new log record. This is the only place that a log record gets. Let's search for this new Batchflow log. That's the only place where this gets called. We don't actually need these anymore either. Okay, so let's run it with that. Init new log, write log. The only thing that's weird here is the, let's see, where do we call that? That gets called from 108. Oh, wait. Where do we set status to preparing? This is preparing. Do we ever get to queued? Oh, wait. No, because queued is for schedules, right? No. This is a little interesting. Like, why is the status preparing? This is no insert, no ID equals insert. So that's why. Does that make sense? Wait a second. So, no, execute is when we schedule. Right, we fire this up. We fire this up and then we queue. So we say, okay, it's queued because we initialized, and then it prepares in the start. But I don't see a. What's kind of weird is this goes right to preparing. Oh, wait. Because we would be up here, right? Maybe that's why. Because we're writing. What would happen if we wrote. What if we wrote before we initted? Because I think I see what's going on here. I think. Maybe. If we call this, let's see if we switch this. Something's losing context when we pass in this. Because we never get this written. Well, I take it back. It gets written here as queued with the batch ID. But then once we're inside and we do preparing, where are you? It thinks we don't have a record again. Which is kind of weird. So maybe we do have to requery for. Maybe we do have to requery for the record when we get in there. Let's see what happens if we just, by having flipped those, if there's any. Again, it feels like a variable context is not being maintained. Okay, let's run this again. Maybe this makes it happy just by. Okay. Sure, but nothing was written that time. Okay. Well, what do we get? It wrote preparing with all this stuff. Inserted with queued. Oops. Wrote processing. What is that last debug? I think what does it do? Oh, it's running the duplicate rule. Okay. This was the start. This is the end. Still weird though. Update. Nothing here because that's the duplicate rule. When it says Batchflow log status equals queued, it doesn't know. Why doesn't it know the batch job ID at that point? Oh, because we haven't set it. Ah, okay. It's like our this is no longer a this, right? It's like we're passing this in, but leaving this behind. So if we flip this again, oops. I think it's because we're like out of, now when we're in execute land, we're like out of process or out of the same cycle, which might mean that's why we're writing 2. So maybe in start, we have to get that back. So it would be interesting to see what does this dot log look like here before we get. So we might actually need to store the batch job ID and the schedule job ID so we can go get our log again. I have a feeling on 150 it's going to be blank. That's my guess. All right. Cleared all of our logs. Let's see. This is the... Oh, wait. Let's run this. Okay, this is in the aura, or I'm sorry, this is in the, when we call init. So inserting that. It's not here either. Okay, that's the start call. Init new log. Status preparing. No ID insert. No ID insert. So maybe it's in start that we're... Which one was this? No ID insert. Start no ID insert. Okay. So we should have a queued with a job ID. Yep. And then we should have a completed with nothing. Okay. I think during start we have to query back what was written. And then I'm also like, is that a race condition? Like, should we even be writing queued? Let's find out. Okay, let's just load log. What does batchable context have? If it has the job ID or the scheduled ID. Well, even if you execute a scheduled, it calls init. So that's another one we'll have to test because I have a feeling we're going to create multiple logs in that case too. But what does batchable context have for properties? Let's see. Get job ID. Okay. I think we'll call this, we're going to call this in start. Excuse me. So we might just call it, maybe we just call it, you know, whenever. Oops. Oh, come on now. Hopefully there's only one. Let's try that. Okay, I'm going to delete these logs again. Okay, gone. Hopefully we just get one. We retrieve the log that was written because it's just not persisting. And that was the first thing we're doing in batch in the start. Yes. Let's get our log. Let's write it out. Let's hope that we're getting what we need. No, I don't want to save all of you. I don't know what just happened there. List has no rows for assignment. Maybe it just doesn't. Maybe it just doesn't work, right? Because that tells me that the record does not exist yet at this point in time. So it seems like start fires as soon as you call execute batch. Because we didn't get any further here. Well, let's see. Did we? Did we get something to write? Yes, so it did write. Man, that's weird. That there maybe there's just a race situation there. So maybe we just have to start writing the log app preparing, right? I'm not sure how else to handle it. So we don't write in init. we probably don't need to load log. We just need to write. The challenge here is we don't know. We do lose the source. And we don't know. I think schedule is going to be interesting. I think schedule is going to make us have to rewrite the log or requery for the log. Okay. I'd love to persist the log because it doesn't. Okay, so let's backtrack here a little bit. So maybe we do need. So maybe we write these as properties on the Batchflow class. Okay, and then we're just going to return here. We can't write yet. When we write the log, okay, is there any other place that we're writing? Anywhere else that we're writing the... We have to deal with scheduled still, but this might... So we've given up on trying to write queued, I think. It just seems like there's some kind of race condition here between queued and init. Our init and batch is queued, or start. So let's see if this works now, because we're just giving up on queued. Okay, that ran really fast. So did we get what we expected now? Oh, jeez. Come on, man. Oh. Well, so we could do this another way, right? We could set... do want to track source because we're going to need that later also. So we're going to set that in run. Where'd that go? I can get the batch ID later. I don't understand why even my init call isn't setting. Should be setting it here. But okay. So let's set it in start. Now will this log? At least we're only getting one record now, so that's cool. But still not getting the data that we need. Okay. All right. We're not writing source, but that's okay for right now. We just need to pop that in. Hopefully that's hopefully our source persists. If it doesn't, then that means something else is up. But we're getting closer now. Our source is still blank though. So despite Wait, did I set it? Yes, bf.source equals source. Our config persists. Can I initialize the log, or can I set the log here instead? Should I say bf.log.source equals this source value, and then I don't need to set it here. Still confusing, but like I don't understand why the config is persisting, but the log is not. Okay. Try it again. come on. Man. So, just kind of lost here. Like, I could throw it into a static variable, I guess. It just seems silly to have to do it that way. It just doesn't care. It just doesn't care about the fact that the source isn't riding along with with BF. Let's debug this in start. I don't know if it's going to give me everything. Maybe we should stringify it or serialize it. Where are we at? A quarter to 2. Okay. Source null. But however, wait, that's the, hold on. That's the log. No, that's not the log. Attributes type Batchflow log. Wait, what? Oh, wait, no, that is, okay, that's the log property. Flow configs, config, it knows about that. Why is it not writing the rest of it? I'll open the raw. It knows everything about software and game development category. Yeah, I have this. That's a good point. I think I'm in like what, science and technology? Yeah. Let's see. Software and game development. Good catch. Sensation Black 1984. Let's change that category. probably more relevant, right? Science and technology a little too vague, and we're not doing science. Well, we're doing science, but we're not like doing physics or chemistry or something like that. We're doing software. Good call. Right now, we're doing very frustrating software. Now, it does make sense that that source is null here. It just doesn't make sense that it doesn't carry over. It's carrying over. Is it like an objects versus? Okay. Objects versus primitives. I wonder. Are we in Salesforce land? Yeah. Passed by value. Any changes to the arguments exist only within the scope of the method. It could be. Oops, that was me not being able to spell correctly. Maybe this is bubbling over. But I still don't understand why it won't take. I'm going to just do it as a static, because at this point I really don't understand why it. Why it doesn't persist. So I'll make this a static string. All right, so I don't know why that doesn't work, but we'll make it a static property. So then we'll just say source equals source here. And then where do we log? Right log. Wait, this. Right log. Let's go here. Source. If this doesn't work, then I'm just gonna cry. I'm gonna quit. Quitting. I'm frozen again. What is wrong with this thing? Ah. Okay. It's going to work this time, and if it doesn't, then I quit. I admit it's not defeat, it's just my brain descending into stupid and running out of formative brain cells that can make formative decisions. Or intelligent decisions. All right. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. Oh my gosh, it didn't work. Is it even passing it? I guess let's go all the way back. When we call run, if I can find it. When run gets called and we get a source, let's system.debug source. And maybe we're confusing it here, so let's just say batchflow.source. And we'll go down here and try not to confuse it when we write the log, and we'll say batchflow.source. Okay. One more time. One more. Then win or lose, I'm going to go eat lunch. That's that's what's going to happen next. Does my calendar tell me I need to be anywhere at 2 o'clock? No. Okay. Oh, what's up, hair? There you go. Did I get it? Not really. All right, it's going to work. If it doesn't work, we kind of know why. Yeah, that's the invocable. Is it this one? No. All right, hold on. We're going to run it again. Well, I guess we're going to see if the source actually shows up too. Oh my goodness, what? What? Maybe it's just not being passed. That doesn't seem... It doesn't make sense because we're doing this. All right, run it again. One more time. I keep saying one more time, but... Oh, that's the batch apex, sorry. Oh, yes, okay, it's there. Batchflow invocable is indeed our value, and yet it does not... I'm going to give it a different name. I can't imagine there's any kind of collision there, but let's... And then I want to debug... let's debug Batchflow source, or Batchflow.source here. I have never had this much trouble. All right, one more time. Okay, it is now a static variable that should persist across calls because of database.stateful, and yet despite trying to set it here with batchflow.source, unless it miraculously fixed because we had some naming collision, I'm done. I'm out. That's it for today. I have no idea why we can't just get... I've stuffed this value in everything that I can right here. Batchflow source comes from here because we just want to, when we call run, we just want to be able to say, and here's where I ran it from. You know, just so we can log that. It starts here, it goes here, the value is written out here. We set it to the static property because I have no idea how else to do this because it doesn't work in any other capacity. We're creating a new log if we need it. That doesn't really matter about the source. It's the value here, and yet by the time we get down to start, we've got no value. I just do not. I give up. I'm done for the day. This is it. I don't know. I don't know. I'd go do some research, I guess, on static variables or whatever variables, because we can pass around the Salesforce objects. We can't do anything else. I'm lost. But that's that. I don't like ending on a frustrating state, you know? I like ending on a good note. I was hoping we were going to be able to build dashboards and other stuff, but if we don't have this logging working, we don't have anything to reference in those dashboards to check the progress. So pause, regroup, halftime, end of period, whatever. Come back out next week and we'll figure out what's going on. Till then, I'm Tom, and maybe you can't do this on Salesforce. You can do this on Salesforce. We got to figure it out. Thanks for stopping by.